We go to the next issue, and the next point is stalled. I'm going to bundle it up. Stalled, abandoned, and delayed projects. You can see a replica even in the constituency level. The previous time we looked at the county government, you saw what was happening. The county government will get into a project. Along the way, for whatever reason, the subcontractor will decide to just stop with the construction. But strategically, at the point they are stopping with the construction, they have been paid more than the works that they have done, meaning whatever margin they had anticipated to get from the project, they've already gotten it. So even if they leave the project at that point, they have nothing to lose. That was happening at the county government. We spoke about the national government. Equally, we pointed to projects. Kenya has done a couple of projects. They have stalled. Different Ministry of Health, a couple of projects, they have stalled. In this scenario, equally, the MPs are doing the same thing. And that's why I'm telling you, the stealing model is the same. It's just different castes. The stealing model is the same. They get into a contract with people. They award them the project. And then along the way, someone just builds something and then they decide to disappear after they make their margin. What that means is money has been put into something that cannot be used by people. So around, let's assume it's 5 million, it's 10 million, it's 20 million. It is of no benefit to the people because the project has not been completed and it's not going to be completed. That is how we are losing a significant portion of money in Kenya. I will just give 2 examples and then Bonnie, you can pick on that. Teso North, wacha nitaje hii Teso North na wajua vizuri kwa ulemba. There was a school block that was constructed. 50% was paid, but the value of the project was not worth 50%. And of course, the subcontractor abandoned the project. And it was different schools, very many schools in different areas. Mwingi West is a notorious area. Matungu as well. Built a school, did not complete it, they disappeared. So either watu wakae kwa building ambayo jamalizwa, ama if they're not sitting in there, then it's just a waste like that. Bonnie, please pick other areas that you would like to point to.
So all these issues are related. I started off by talking about the fact that we are a country that runs on deficits. So every shilling that we are sending to the county government, every shilling we are sending to DCDFs, it's money that's borrowed, right? So if I send 100 million somewhere, and that money was borrowed, and we are paying something like at least 15% interest. Think about, if 200 million is sent to one constituency, apply 15% interest on that every year, and you can see that there's 30 million worth of interest. Just to, even if that money went and did what it was supposed to do, we have a cost of 30 million on that 200 million, right?
Yes.
And so then you have this money that goes out there, and in some instances, you can see 125 million is stolen. And then it almost like you can't win if you are Kenyan, because if you don't lose money, if it's not stolen outright, like 125 million cannot be accounted for. They go out and they issue these contracts, and then you wait for 5-6 years, and the projects never get completed. We are a country that is full of projects that have been started that have not been completed. You and I looked at the national government and identified in 1 year close to 700 billion worth of projects that have been started. We've spent money, but they are not completed. They are not serving one Kenyan.
No.
But these issues to me are predictable, right? Again, what is so when you take 200 million and you send it to CDF, and so now you have politicians who are not project managers. They have not convinced anyone that they have the capability to run a project. I don't even want you to trust me to do a project manager. That's not my expertise, right?
Yes.
But we've taken 300 people and we've given it the task of being a project manager. They are going out and they are deciding where to even put the money. So now we've given him it's like it's an investor. Even forget about the money. The guy is having to decide where to put the money. Like, what's more of a priority? Do I build a road? Do I build a church? Do I build? I mean, you're seeing some of these people go out, and there was a senator from Kisumu who went and bought a cow, right? The cow is walking around. It has his name on it. And so they'll buy a cow with a name on it, and there's a CDM, there's a sign off. Every one of these things, they put a CDM name on it, right? Um, Again, when you try to ask yourself, what is the point of this? What is the point of all these little things that are going on with you? And I want someone to articulate why they're spending money on this versus this, right? So show me that you've thought about it. But contracts go out, they issue to people that have never done anything. I give you an example of someone who is in the UK and is sitting there with a contract to build a road, right? When you look at many of these CDFs, it's the same thing. Contracts are issued to people who have never done anything. Let me give you, so I'll talk about, in a little bit about this one specific CDF for one of the guys that wants to be governor now. And I summarize key takeaways of my analysis of this, and I'm just gonna mention the things that come up. 3 years. The first one, recurring financial irregularities. Money cannot be accounted for bursaries, etc. But one of them is project delays and poor quality workmanship. So when you see all this, when you go pick one year and you go through the report, you see poor workmanship everywhere. You see delays, right?
Yeah.
Projects that have been started, they're not completed. Low quality construction, right? It happen all the time. Missing procurement and contract documentation. It's the same thing, right? It's the same thing. These people are not good leaders to begin with, in my view. They have not demonstrated success in the private sector because we don't elect people because of how successful they are, right? We elect people because they have either the most amount of money, they are the loudest, and so then you give someone 200 million and you expect miracles to come out of it.
Come on.
We are set to fail. It's never gonna work. It's never gonna work.
Before I bring in justice, again, it's just what we've spoken on before.
Yeah.
This model that we are taking as a country, where we take money and we decide to give it to people
Yeah.
without expertise in terms of what to do with the money, how
Right.
to prudently multiply that money. Is that a model that is going to work for us as a country, or do we need to come back to the table and rethink about it? And just as I want to bring you at this point, and we've maybe touched on it in our previous discussions, a contract is in place. As a good risk manager, of course, we've said they're not good risk managers, but let's just assume as a good risk manager, you're supposed to say, I am only going to pay this person after this milestone has been achieved. Of course, when you're structuring the milestone, you will ensure at any given point, whatever you're paying, your received value is higher than the amount you're dishing out. Does it mean that we just don't do contracts in these projects? Does it mean we don't have good contract managers? What is it that we are getting wrong? That we are having billions of pending projects people cannot use in the national government now with the MPs, with the county. What are we doing wrong? Because we cannot be paying 12.5 trillion debt, and yet we see only 2 trillion in use in terms of projects. It does not make sense.
There's so many issues that you're looking at when you're talking about stalled projects. A lot of them. The common one that I know most people probably are aware of is these things are political. If I complete these projects, I will not have anything to run on. So I will just have to keep it going so that I can launch, relaunch, and launch it again. The reason is that we don't have citizens who are engaged enough to hold the politicians accountable that this issue was launched last time. So what do? I have to keep you coming back for that dispensary, coming back for that project over and over and over again. So we are not intending as politicians, and I hope it will be different when God gives us an opportunity to serve, that we won't do these things for purpose of keeping people poor so that we can control them. So these projects, sometimes, they were not intended to be finished. They were put there so that somebody can be referencing to them. But the second point that I really think it's also important, and you raised it, is about how do we even allocate these projects? So what happens is that we give projects to family members. And if we give it to family members, then we are going to pay them even before the project is completed, because money is coming to us. So technically, really, this is, it's a way of trying to get money for ourselves. So we have to have either, if your spouse registers a company, your child, and some other relative. And in that case, if somebody comes to your desk and asks, should we pay? You just look at, oh, this is in a sum. Yeah, just go ahead. You don't have to think
And pay.
the value for your citizens. You don't even go further, as you mentioned, to have these milestones, things inspected, the foundation get completed, the walling and all that kind of stuff. So we just pay ahead of time with a hope. And that's where we end up doing what? Paying for the same project over and over and over again, repeatedly. But just think about this. Some of these tall projects, if you think very carefully, you realize that they were even started in many regimes before. You look at the case when we had an impeachment going on at the Senate for the Kericho County. You could see that projects where same amount had been paid several times for the same task that was never completed.
Wow.
It's in the public domain. Why? Because there's also laxity in the way we verify these things. And what I would say is that we really have to think, if we are here to serve the people, we have the heart to serve the people, or we just want to have these projects for the sake of it. But also the question of sending money, you I think, and Bonnie addressed it very well, that why are we sending money to these people? If we have allocated a project under Nasambu's constituency, and I'm supposed to release the money, I'm supposed to release the money to the contractors instead of passing it through you to send to the contractors? Why can't we do that? Make sure that the work is done, is verified. Yes, it's allocated to your constituency, but the payment will have to come from the same place and take care of what's happening. In that way, we're going to cut on these bureaucracies that we are having. But what we are doing is that we have created an avenue through which we are going to continue stealing this. So some projects were never meant to be completed. They are there for political reasons. And I can tell you, this is going to continue killing our country. Something is wrong.
Everything is wrong. It's not one thing.
Everything
it's
is
not
wrong.
Something. It's just everything is wrong. And just I want to kusisitiza kile ambacho umesema, wananchi tafadhali, mnaitwa mnalipiwa mabasi. Nimeona mabasi za yellow going round. I don't know why they're using school buses, which schools are allowing politicians to use their buses to ferry people. Mnaitwa, mnaingizwa kwa basi, mnapewa shilingi 500, wajuzi walipewa 5,000. They come, they tell you they are coming, wanakuja kulaunch barabara fulani. Sikiza hapa vile tunawaambia, hiyo barabara watailaunch, loan itachukuliwa, waseme wanaenda kujenga hiyo barabara. What they are going to do with that money, more than 90% will go to their pocket. 5% will do something on the site. The other 5% ndo wamekuja kuwahonga. Nyinyi wote, all you 5,000 people, they have just given you maybe 1% of the project value. Alafu wewe utakaa hapo useme, nani juu anakatanga ribbon kila wakati ati anatutengenezea barabara. Umeona hiyo barabara imefika kweli? Wewe umeiona wapi? Nani vile anakatanga ribbons na kutupea hiyo 5,000 inatosha sisi kumpatia kura. Please
I have a
be
proposal
short-sighted
here which maybe people can consider.
Yes, please.
For every milestone, for every phase, if it's a foundation and we are ready to pay for it, let's hold public participation on that building. When we go to phase 2, when the building is completed and ready to be paid, public participation needs to be in that where the project is. Kama ni kwa barabara, let's go create a space to hold public. Because what's happening is that these payments are being made, but people have never even inspected. Can we go as basic as making sure that before this money is released, we continue doing this public participation, but on the place where the project was supposed to be conducted, so that the citizens can say that, yes, we saw the project and we really appreciated it. We even took pictures and made sure that this project was done.
So what you're suggesting, the issue of public participation, that's a different thing that's not there. But I will say that, we are a country that's not, we don't have a shortage of laws. We don't have a shortage of mechanisms for holding people accountable. The issue that we have is that the people that are supposed to be executing on these things, like holding people accountable, they're just not interested. When you go through this report, you will see that we give a contract to someone, they come in and they get the first amount. They come back a year later, they have not delivered, but we continue paying them, right? So even though in many of these, the contract itself tells you that they're supposed to, in one contract, there might be 5 milestones, right? They're supposed to be, they come and say, we've completed it. There's someone that's supposed to go and take a look and say, yes, I can confirm that this has been, it has been documented. They've done what they say they've done. But in many cases, they don't do that. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is that we should not lie to ourselves that what we need is more laws or mechanisms. They are there. It is just that the people that are supposed to be holding these wrongdoers accountable are not interested. We are talking about 125 million here that's missing in one CDF. You think that we need a law, that a new law that says that we should not be losing? There are laws in the books. It's just that the people that are supposed to be there executing these things, they're just not interested, right? They're not interested.
I got to the point where I fully accepted that the public is the watchdog. It is not Parliament.
Yes.
It's not the enforcement office. And that's why even when we are starting this session, I told the people, it is our responsibility, we as a citizen, to know what's happening in our region. In terms of inspection, let me just say what the law says, and then I will say what would maybe a proposal that might work for us. The law stipulates that there is a committee, the CDF committee. The CDF committee, the people who are appointed are recommended by the MP. So meaning it's just his own people. This CDF committee, they're the ones who are supposed to do an inspection prior to the payment being done. But if it's their own project, because they've been appointed by their own person, then you do not expect anything good to come out of such an inspection. Yeah. But what I will say in terms of maybe workability, we are the watchdogs, the people. We keep on saying here, disciples, si abure. Us coming here and looking at audit reports and speaking about it, it's a form of kujituma. Mahali tumefika kama wananchi, you must know the money that is being disbursed to your constituency, to your ward, to your county, what it's being done for. When there is call for public participation, because this committee is supposed to sit down with people and say, we are going to do this project. Involve yourself to know what projects are going to be done and whether they are a reflection of the priority of the region. And then ask those people to be part of the inspection. They cannot stop you. They do not have a right. So I would agree with Justice, and I would agree with you, Bonnie. Writing law does not work, because if we put the law in the hands of the MPs or the police, they are not, or the ESC, they are not do anything. But kama sisi wananchi ni sisi kuingia kwa ground na being hands-on. I feel like that's the only way we can get the change that we anticipate, at least with this government. Until now we get maybe a better government, then the rule of law will work. But with this government,
Really,
ni
Bonnie
sisi tu kwa ground.
President, right?
Yeah. If that happens, things are gonna change. Trust me.
Yeah. We continue.
Yeah.
And the next areas that we are going to look at, and I want to do it in succession so that we can look at two constituencies. The next area is procurement irregularities. Procurement Ni Boni ameniambukiza hii maneno hapa. So what happens in this scenario? Under the law, any government entity is supposed to use competitive bidding. And if they're not using competitive bidding, then there has to be a justifiable reason, like an emergency, or maybe just a few people can provide those services. When you look through the constituencies, and that is to show that this is a planned error, so to say. Many contracts and subcontracts are awarded without competitive bidding. The committee, remember, is the one which identifies the projects that are to be done. They are the ones who approve the subcontractor. So chances are they will bring their, not chances are, they actually bring their own people and then they award them the contract. And that is why we are getting substandard projects. We are getting stalled projects because they bring in people who do not have capability. Or even if they have capability, they can get away with doing something so shoddy. So I will just highlight one or two counties that have not abided by the law. And then, Bonnie, you can touch on it some more before we go to the specific constituencies. Langata, they awarded a 14.2 million contract without competitive bidding. The MP for Langata is Jalango. This happened during his era. Soy, I think, is near Trans Nzoia. Equally, they procured with no tender records. So it's like these are just some like ni nyingi. Tukimention ni nyingi sana. I know that here is before Bonnie comes in. The unfortunate thing with not having a competitive bid is you will have someone who is a highest bidder coming into the project, meaning the county, the constituency does not get value for the project. Watu wata overrate, wata inflate ili wapate pesa zao, alafu nyinyi mta end up kupata kakitu kabaya kadogo. That is why it is wrong for those people not to engage in competitive bidding. Bonnie, speak to it.
Yeah, so I was talking about I start off by saying that how dumb can one be to say that you're gonna take 60 billion and send it across the country, and you tell yourself that you're serving people, but if someone was to ask you, okay, so 60 billion is this year, so let's go back over the last 5 years, and let's say you spent 300 billion, and I ask you to tell me how effective that investment has been in those 5 years. Nobody can provide an answer that makes sense. Nobody can provide an answer that's backed by any evidence because of the fact that we do things like it's like running a kiosk.
Yes.
You know, I bet you someone running a kiosk in Nikomba will be more organized than this.
Yes.
We're sending again every year, like last year, 57 billion. But if someone asks you to speak to how effective that 57 billion was, people can guess a bunch of things, but nobody can tell you anything that's reliable because the money was sent out. It was divided into these little chunks and given to 300 people. And they did whatever they wanted to do with it. Much of it is missing. We talked about 125 million in one CDF that's missing, 90 something million that's missing. So you cannot even speak to how effective that is. Okay, so a big chunk cannot be accounted for. Then you go out, and even the ones that are not known to have been stolen, we have issued contracts to people. And oftentimes these are people who have never done this before. And so when almost every report when you go through, you see what's like I was talking about, project delays, poor workmanship. Listen to some of this stuff. A contract somewhere. The auditor is saying cracked walls in classrooms, right? So again, when I hear that we've given someone a contract, I'm always thinking about value for money. I always ask myself, are we getting the best value for money? Someone has given me 200 million. If I'm building a school, I want to make sure that whatever we get, the
Yes.
quality of whatever we get is the very best that we could have gotten. But again, I mean, sometimes we are so ambitious as a people. Frankly, if you send out checks for 57 billion and you see that, let's take the example of Awendo, this constituency we're talking about. So Awendo, they have 125 million that they cannot account for in bursaries. Okay, put that aside. If you know that that's a record, and there's another now 80 million that you need to find out what happened to. If they cannot account for 125 million, what do you
Yes.
think is the status of this 80 million that's left? If they went out and gave contracts to build schools and build a bunch of things, what do you think happened to that? If they're inept enough to not know where 125 million went,
Million
what do
is
you think happened to
Mhm.
the rest of it?
yes.
It's just, I'm giving these examples to remind people that this system is not going to succeed if we don't change it.
Yeah.
Again, there is no standard way of doing things. And again, if I ask you, if you are building schools and I said, what is the standard that we're using? What is the standard? If I want to know whether or not, let's say, someone does a good analysis that tells us, okay, so we took 57 billion, and out of that money, 20 billion was spent on bursaries. I need to be able to say, as a country, if we are trying to be Singapore, what did we get for that 20 billion in investment in bursaries, right? If we took 10 billion and we spent that on schools, if someone needs to speak to how effective that investment was in terms of building things, you need to be able to have the data. When you take this money the way we do it and we send it out, it's a dark hole. You
Yes.
cannot speak to anything. And again, it's because we are doing things in a very dumb way. It gets me so angry because I ask myself, why is it that this is not rocket science, guys? This is
No.
not rocket science. Um, if you're gonna give someone a contract, you need to be able to know that they've done something like that before, that they're gonna, you don't just give. I can't, if I come and say, you know what, I can build a stadium like Atlanta Stadium, you just gonna trust me, because I'm saying I can do that. But again, I think that we start off with bad intentions. We start
Yeah.
off wanting to take advantage of people, and if that's where we're starting, I'm not surprised by the results.
It's not going to be any better.
Yeah.
All right. Just to say something on that before we go to
Yeah,
Kimilili
I think
and
it's
then to Maisha.
I like that analysis, which confirms that tenders just appear on paper. But
Sure.
we know that the winners are pre-selected. They're pre-selected, and
That's true.
at the end of
Yeah.
the day, that leads to inflated prices and, of course, poor workmanship, as you've indicated. But really, these tenders are really interesting because of a story that I was told. Actually, I was told a story 2 days ago, and then I read a different one. I think was on X. The one I was told is someone. Okay, I'll be in trouble, but let me say, save the. In Kisii County was given this tender was planned ahead of time, and the condition was, yep, you're going to win, but the condition is that you want to give me this much. So these procurement things and all that, and what the person that is gonna make that contract, you to win the contract, and what their cut is a big issue, and it's really destroying the way we do work in our counties. The one I saw on X is that this lady actually indicated she even has messages to show that they're being pressured. I want to believe that's the
Juma.
one. Yeah, but yeah, there has
Yeah.
messages to show that have been pressured to give a certain amount and refuse. So now the project has not taken off. Now they are trying to re-advertise it because she declined to agree with that kind of giving. So these things are going on, and they're affecting real people. And that is the one I keep asking the likes of Bonnie and CPAs. Do you guys really think you don't know these things? Such that you go, an auditor goes or someone goes, just because there's a process that needs to be followed. The book says this, but what is happening. But no, there's a standard with which there's a way that you need to change from moving away from the book knowledge, the classroom things that you are teaching, to the real society. Some of the knowledge that we are using to audit these things, I don't think it was meant for Kenya. Kenya, something needs to happen differently than just the audits that we do. I can.
Justice, you're
What?
saying we have a
Justice.
problem.
No,
Justice.
We are
All
the
of us,
problem.
the entire country, is a national issue.
Yeah, guys,
Yeah.
fish rots from the head, right?
It's true.
What we are talking about here at the CDF level is nothing different than what's happening at the national level. When you hear that a new government has come in, decided for Kenyans that we need a healthcare system, did not ask any Kenyan, what kind of system do you think we want? Did not start by analyzing NHIF and say, these are the strengths that NHIF has,
Mhm.
these are the weaknesses. And then you talk to Kenyans and say, guys, so we've shown you what it can do at its best.
Yes.
And this is what we want. Healthcare system for the 21st century. The Kenyans are willing to listen. Show us, right? Show us this is what we have right now. This is what we want our system to be able to do. This is the gap. Then we can engage Kenyans and say, okay, so if we want to close this gap, how much money are we willing to do that? Right? Kenyans are not dumb people. Kenyans will listen. If you tell them this is what we're trying to get us to, this is what the system does right now. So now we're looking for something to close that gap. When Kenyans start with that basic understanding, then we can say, okay, so let's say as a country we decide it's a good investment. Then we go out and you invite potential providers of this solution who come in, they make presentations, someone tells you this is what we want to do, this is what we've done, these are the references, and it's gonna be 30 billion. You have someone comes in there and make the same presentation. At the end of the day, you may have 7 or 8 companies that have told you this is what we can do for you. This is the price. So now we have a general sense of what the market price for this is. Okay. From there, Kenyans can engage in the discussion and say, what is the best value for our money? This is not different that you would do. If you're thinking about building a house or doing anything, you invite people, they come and tell you what they're going to do. You might talk to references and get a better sense of their quality, the quality you can expect. And then you get an idea of what the fair market price, and then you make a decision from there. So in our healthcare system, none of that happened. You have a government that comes in and tells you, we know that you need a healthcare system. But we don't care to know what you want. And we won't even care to tell you what's wrong with the current system. Not only do we know that we need a new healthcare system, we know where we're gonna get it from. So we go out, there's no public procurement. We select a vendor and say, hey, we want you to provide that system. We use direct procurement. Not only do we know who we want to get it from, we know what the fair market price is because we didn't ask them. There was no negotiation. The audit tells you there was no negotiation.
Yeah.
They give us a price and we accepted the price. Okay. And then, so we go out there and we pay 104 billion for that system. You don't know whether 104 billion is high or
Yep.
low
The
because
best value you could have got
there was no
for.
public procurement, right? So
Mhm.
if I bring that example because if you are an MCA somewhere, an MP somewhere, and you know that that's what the president is doing, right? I mean,
Out. Yeah.
How
what
different
do you
we.
expect from an MP,
I agree.
right?
Agree.
So this issue is across the board. And again, to me, fish rush from the head. When
From the
the
head.
person who's leading the country sets that kind of an expectation that I'm this, it's your time to eat,
Right.
then what you get is what you see.
Mm.
Yeah.
A quick one. I just want to know. So you're going to be leaders. I want to know how well you understand your country before we go to the next issue.
Okay.
Which county has the highest number of constituencies?
Nairobi.
How many?
Was 17. Is that?
I just needed to know the highest. I shouldn't have to know.
Bonnie did well. Bonnie is right. It's Nairobi.
No, I did not.
Justice
Yeah.
I
Googled
did not.
the 17
No, I
number.
did not.
Uh,
Actually,
you
no, wait. Is it 17?
hiyo ni uongo ya nusu.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's
'Cause I know
17
how many
count, 17
how
constituencies.
many ODMs are there?
So
Sorry?
you have that question. Let me make a quick point.
Yes.
Let me make a quick point about that. So Nairobi has I don't know if it's 110 MCAs. Okay.
Wow.
And I talk to Kenyans about we have to think through the system of government that we have. You
Mhm.
have a county that has 100 and
Right.
MCAs over 100, right? And the point of MCAs is what? They're supposed to be holding the government the executive in the county are available.
Mm.
And so you've heard me talk about the fact that Nairobi last year has 33 billion to spend. The law says you can't spend more than 35%. They spend 55. The citizens of Nairobi County lose 6.7 billion just on that alone.
Yes.
The same people go out and spend 1.2 billion on nonsense around the world, going to Marrakesh, Morocco to study proactive management, and a bunch of other stupid causes.
Mhm.
1.2 billion is lost. The same Nairobi County owes 118 billion in pending bills. 21 billion of that is legal bills. 6.3 billion is legal fees to 4 lawyers in the county. 6.3 billion. Even though Nairobi has a county legal office, that costs Nairobians about 300 million every year.
Mhm.
Okay, but these legal cases that come up, instead of them being dealt with by the county government, the
Yes.
legal office, they
Mm.
send it to 4 lawyers. 4 lawyers bill Nairobi 6.3 billion in 1 year. That 6.3 billion is 20% of the annual budget. So the annual budget of the Nairobi County, 20% of it has gone to 4 lawyers for corruption and illegality. Okay? So those facts are supposed to be consumed by the people those 100 and something MCAs. You don't hear anything about it,
It's from them. Mm.
you know? So you think that we have a government. You don't have a government, because if that stuff, I mean, if I'm an MCA in Nairobi and I hear that the government is spending 55% of the money on salaries, I'm raising hell. I'm saying, what
Yes.
is wrong with you? The law says that the maximum is 35% so that we can have roads, so that we can make sure that when someone goes to a county hospital, there is equipment, and you're going to spend that on salaries. I expect, impeachment proceedings to be starting. You go to Nairobi and it's full of garbage. It smells like, I can't even describe to you. And it's not like there's no money. We are sending 6.3 billion to 4 lawyers for corruption, and there's no accountability. And so that's why I asked you. I love to ask Kenyans, tell me what are the 5 things that you get from your MCA. And nobody has ever given me 2.
Wow.
So back to us
Yeah.
people. It is
Mhm.
mi hata sijui. Najua kila wakati tunaongeanga hii story nasikianga tu si story,
It's depressing.
calling it that. Every time
Yeah.
we have these sessions, I'm
Mhm.
just like, is there hope? Is there any place where you can point and say, oh, this is working out well, this is really...
Yeah.
Because even the MPs where you think are really, really doing so well, we
Yeah.
will spare 2 minutes and realize, aya kumbe, part of the money still pia hao wenyewe wanachukua. And now I want to highlight 2 constituencies that yani is in exemplary.
Yeah.
We have a man who in a short period of time alikuja akatuambia ni God manze, alikuja na chopa akasema
Yeah.
he's worked hard, the rest of us are not working hard, ama we are praying to the wrong God,
Yeah.
we are big people so we have smaller gods. I do not know, but this man came back to us and told us within a given period of time he was able to buy a chopper through his hard work. When you look at his constituency, the amount of money that has been lost, it will make sense how it's possible for some to have a big God, allegedly. So, and this constituency is called Kimilili. Watu wa diaspora tunaita Kimilailai. This one wants to be a governor of Bungoma County. With the little resource that he was given in Kimilili constituency, Aki, forgive me. With the little money that he was given for Kimilili constituency, the amount he took is mind-boggling. You can imagine if he gets a bigger platform. Atareform kama huyu mchungaji wetu, ama atatuambia nyinyi mlikuwa wajinga, wacha niwaonyeshe venye mtu anaweza iba. Really, voters, those are the things that you need to think through before you decide. So we are going to talk through Kimilili constituency. And we have highlighted some of the areas. By now, when we speak about lost money, please speak with us, areas that the government is losing money through. Hizo illegal bidding, hizo illegal contract award, stalled projects, poor workmanship, and just transfer of money that you cannot see, including bursaries. This constituency, all those areas waliguza. Zote. I will highlight one significant area, unaccounted and unsupported money transfers and uses. This is where someone tells you, oh, we took this money and we put here. We took this money and we paid for this bursary. We took this money and we sent here. Haikuonekana. Unajua hiyo pesa ni ngapi? 436 million. Niambia hata wewe utanunua chopa. Like really, what would you be doing with all that money? Pombe tu.
Yeah.
Itafika mpaka kwa chopa. That is what we have for Kimilili constituency. And this man, I want to highlight, wants to come to you right now and tell you he wants to be a governor. Kura yako ndio nguvu yako. Boni, tell us more.
You know, I have to make a confession. So when I saw a clip of Didmas Barasa talking about the fact, the question was asked, how did you get a chopper? And he said, I'm a role model in this country. I've been in parliament for 10 years. And I've been able to save enough money to be able to buy a chopper, right? That's what the guy is saying. And so I decided to just go and take a look and see how that's possible, And so I looked at how many years did I look at here? I looked at 2019 all the way to 2022. So we are not talking about 10 years. He's saying that in 10 years he was able to save enough money to buy a helicopter. But I looked at 2019, 2022, and I could not account for 436 million. Let me give you a couple of examples. In 2021, 2022, he has allegedly purchased things like computers, scanners, printers, equipment basically for 27 million, but has no receipt. Can I show you a receipt? Can I show you a computer? Can I show you a printer? 27 million is missing. In 2020, 2021, there was 61.6 million worth of construction that happened in certain schools. Has no contract with anybody showing that that there's someone constructing. Has no receipt saying that I bought cement, I bought other construction material. 61.6 million. In 2019, 2020, 1.1 million in checks that have not been cashed, but they're missing. So you just know the check number is missing, and they cannot be accounted for. In 2021, 2022, 27 million worth of bursaries cannot be accounted for. Bursaries, right? We spent time talking about bursaries.
Seriously.
27 million in 1 year cannot be accounted for. And I want you to think about the extent of the problem we have. Remember, we're talking about 2.1 billion worth of bursaries that are missing in 2023, 2024. Remember that? And we say that the number one county in terms of that was Awendo, where 125 million in 1 year cannot be accounted for. So when you hear Didmas Barasa saying that he's a role model, I guess he can say that because he's saying, hey, I only stole 27 million. Why are you giving me a hard time? Awendo, the guy in Awendo stole 125 million. Why are you giving me a hard time? 27 million is the damage in that county. And so, you ask the question, is there hope? Sometimes it's depressing to see this because that guy that has done this, 2020, 2021, 28 million worth of other purchases cannot be accounted for. There's no receipt. There's no. Look, I tell you, maybe I grew up in the private sector. I'm not a guy who's a function outside of that system. So I am used to getting, I'm used to being accountable. I never told you guys this, but my mom read a small business, right? And I spent a lot of time with my mom running that business. And one time she sent me to buy some stuff. And when I came back, and it wasn't the first time that I had done that, but one day I came back and she sat me down and wanted me to account for every single shilling that I had spent that day. And there was a little bit of some money. It wasn't a lot, but there was some that I couldn't maybe aware. I don't know what I did with it. I couldn't account for it. And so I'm sitting there and I'm so angry because I'm like, why are you asking me like to be this accountable? Like, why are you worrying about that? And I was so angry because I felt like she was
Mhm.
questioning my decision making, you know. But eventually she told me, look, I want you to be accountable because if you're gonna run this
Right.
business, you need to know where every single shilling went. So this is me. I think I might have been 16 years old, right? And so that stuck with me. And so then you hear of someone who says that I bought stuff for 28 million in 1 year, has no receipt, right? Has no receipt. Um, and so this individual, 436 million
Mm.
in just from 2019 to 2022 cannot be accounted for. He's been in office for 10 years and he's riding around in a helicopter. And he wants you to believe that he's gotten to that point because of the fact that he's been in office, even if he did not pay taxes. If you
Right.
take his entire salary for 10 years, even if he didn't pay taxes,
Yes.
even if he did not, uh, even if he was a bum, he doesn't support his kids, doesn't spend money on anybody.
Mm.
You cannot explain his wealth today just on salary. It's just not gonna happen. So then when you look at these records, and that's what you see. And these people, we actually reward them for this theft. The guy wants to be governor. Do you think he's crazy? He wants to be governor because he knows he has a chance of being governor.
Mm.
And if Boni goes and runs there against him, and I've never stolen from anybody,
Mm.
he actually has a good chance of beating me because he has a lot of money and he can go somewhere and come with a bucket of cash and hand it out to people, and he's likely going to win. I'll say one other thing, and then I'll let you guys speak.
Okay.
I talked to someone 2 days ago about a gentleman that ran for office in Kenya. And he told me this gentleman ran for office for a member of parliament and he spent
Okay.
50 million.
Ish.
Okay, 50 million. And he had a budget of 50 million and he told me the last day of the
Yeah.
campaign they literally ran out of money. They couldn't do anything, right? They spent 50 million. And so this gentleman ended up winning that seat. Okay?
Wow.
Ended
Oh.
up that seat. But what I want you to think about is if someone has spent in 50 million to win a seat as an MP somewhere, okay? What do you think he's gonna do?
Return
He
them.
gets 200 million in CDF. What do you think he's gonna do? You really think that he's gonna go there and account for every shilling? You don't think that he wants a return from that? So I give that example because if we are serious about changing this country, it has to start with us. That if my buddy Justice is running for MCA, don't go to him and ask him to come and bribe you so you can go vote. Listen to what he's telling you, because if we continue not listening to politicians, if we continue not interrogating politicians, we are voting for people because they came in with a bunch of cash. What we are doing is we are basically
Mhm.
facilitating this theft.
Mm.
Because some people are gonna do whatever they can to win office, right? There are people who don't have any moral compass. They're gonna do whatever it takes, even if it takes me, giving 100
Mm.
million. I'm gonna do that. It's like a gambler,
Yes.
But then when I get into office, I want 500 million, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So unless we are willing to change ourselves in terms of what we expect from politicians and how we target them and evaluate them, do not expect politicians to change. It has to start with us.
And then I agree with you. I agree with you. And
Yeah,
before bringing justice, I want
Yeah.
to read something from Willis
Mhm.
Evans Otieno.
right.
Najua wakili Willis.
Yes.
Anaongoza shule ya Nyati Primary School. It's
Hmm.
in Ebo Usonga. He says this school has been frozen from 1988, meaning there has been no repairs, no any form of upgrade. It's been untouched by budgets, it's been untouched by speeches, untouched by promises. Yet every weekend, the skies are noisy with helicopters, cameras, and choreographed concerns. Constituencies don't run on protein shakes. Schools aren't built with squats.
Mm.
Roads do not emerge from selfies.
Yeah.
That's the game our politicians play for us. Uliona ule mama mwenye aliweka kamera akasahau ameweka kamera ni kama anataka kuonyesha ametoka kwa helicopter, kumbe sijui, like whatever stupid thing she was doing, because it's just stupid. Those are the kind of theatrics the politicians are putting us through and not getting into the core of what they were elected to do. I mean, of course, they get to the core of what they got themselves to do in those positions, but not
is that the
people.
same? Is that the same elected leader
Reason
that
here
recently was on stage as if like she's the member of, no, she's the governor of something, and then couldn't be recognized as a governor of Kiambu? Is that the one you're talking about? No.
I don't know.
We are talking about Olego Songa, right?
Yeah,
That's in,
she was
the
on
lady
stage
woman,
recently
she's
where
the MP
governors
for
were being introduced, and she stood to be introduced as a governor. It was in the, you need to see.
Yeah.
I don't keep
Yeah,
up with.
please. Before you say, if I can just say something in 20 seconds about, we are talking about Olego Songa, right? So that, and you remember that school, I saw some of those pictures. In 1 year that I'm looking at, and I'm going to release this study of Olego Songa. 19 million dispersed to education institutions to renovate schools. Listen to the auditor. Physical inspection of the projects revealed poor workmanship with floors having cracks after completion, some window panes missing, door and window hinges poorly fitted, corridors had deep potholes, paint of the sidewalls falling off, and projects not branded. That's just a small, just one reading in a big report. Vandalized tractors worth 51 million that were purchased by this CDF in 1 year, got taken somewhere, they were abandoned. This is the auditor saying this. Alago Songa, we are talking about that. 3 tractors had been abandoned at the former municipal council of Siaya's premises and were heavily vandalized, and their value could not be determined. We spent 51 million on tractors. They got abandoned somewhere. They have been vandalized.
Yeah.
Useless. 51 million worth of equipment.
No, I mean, for me, just a quick comment on what you just mentioned there. People are not governed by leaders only, but they're also governed by what they can tolerate. The level of mediocrity that we have tolerated for so long, the ones that we reward, it actually points to what we are dealing with here. When somebody comes and uses the word, a member of parliament can come and tell you that, trust me. Trust a member of parliament? No, trust must be audited. You can't talk about trusting if that trust must be audited. And those audits must mean for something. We can't go out tracking the helicopters and all those things. And we are tracking speeches instead of, looking at things. Oh, do you know how we verify things? Because my member of parliament came and gave a speech that have built this and this and this, but we never verify. We just need to do something deeper than this. We are called for citizens. Please rise up and verify these things. Because these are our kids. These are, a generation that we are destroying. But even as we ask for the citizens to do something, I have a challenge for, at the very least, those people from every ward who have gone to school, just help us. Because not everybody is going to be able to do these things. You don't expect, I'm sorry to use, like maybe some of my grandparents or my mother to be the one to do that. But if we have at least 2-3 educated people, help us do something. You are educated for a reason. You are exposed for a reason. You went to Nairobi for a reason. You went overseas for a reason. Do something for your ward, for your school. You went to some school somewhere in the village. How are they doing? I liked when Bonnie was sharing the story of going back to his school. How many of us go back to our schools and ask, where's the CDF money? We need to do something.
It's a traumatic experience. I can tell you that it's a traumatic experience. So I can see why some people don't want to go.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wafuasi, tunatafuta wafuasi
Yeah.
to carry the gospel and take initiatives and ensure that, again, accountability is on us, no one else but us. I am going to go to another miraculous constituency. And here's the trend. They get access to monies. And once they've seen, kumbe tunaweza kula pesa kwa hizi constituency, they decide, hii CDF si ya kutosha, wacha tuende tukue deputy governor. So hata Waika constituency pia yeye ameamua he wants a bigger platform to take more. So he wants to be a deputy governor of Nairobi. Please, any idea?
I think
Justice,
I
do you
do.
have an idea who I'm talking about?
And it's probably from my political party. Is that Alado? Is that oh, and then he
Yes.
actually recently said that
Oh,
no,
kumbe hii
I'm not going to be a
spot
deputy of
on.
anybody. I'm going to be the governor. So he has upgraded. Actually, he probably has enough money to run for governor. Interesting.
So similar to Kimilili, from year 2017 to 2022, huyu pia alikuwa na dip mkono yake kila mahali. Bursary ng'oa kidogo, construction of schools and nini ng'oa kidogo. We say we are buying something, I mean, si tumesema,
Right.
si just trust us, even if you don't see that thing. I mean, just trust us, we've bought it. Ndio hiyo. That is what he's been doing. So in total, the amount that has been lost within this period is about 377 million. Just highlighting some of the major projects that I can point to. Star Hope Primary School. They allocated 108 million to build 32 classrooms. Boni, ni wewe umeni affect ulimi. 32 classrooms. Contractor abandoned the site. So can you imagine 108 million? And then the contractor abandons the site. And even they added 20 million to the project. So 129 million, but the project is not complete. So incomplete project, but wameka hapo 129 million. Another area, 51.6 million school transfers. They transfer that amount to some school, but then hakuna document inaonyesha nani alipokea, shule gani ilipokea. Mimi nimekushow, just
Wow.
trust me, 51.6 million. Bonnie, tell us more.
You know, at some point, because we give all these numbers and people focus on the numbers, and the numbers are big and we have to talk about them. But I mean, I tell Kenyans to just think about the human beings behind all these numbers. Think about the human beings behind these numbers. We start out by talking about our own, backgrounds, where we came from, right? You've seen my school that I went to, and you know what this kind of money can do to a school like that. And there is a kid somewhere. We've told a kid that we have a very good constitution. We've told them that Kenya is better than Somalia, right? You're guaranteed a right to education. But that right doesn't mean a damn thing if you're gonna show up in a class and there's no money because one individual has decided to take that money and put it in his pockets and go
Yes.
and do whatever the heck he wants to do with it. The true measure of a country, of the decency of a country, is what it does around the most vulnerable people, right? How you treat the most vulnerable people says a lot about who you are. When you look at these countries that we live in, in America, Australia, whatever, the biggest difference between them and us is how we behave around the most vulnerable people.
Yes.
And, what the most devastating thing is that we are the ones that hand these people the weapons to for lack of a better word, molest us. Like we
Yeah.
put these people into office and we give them these resources. And even when they steal from us, we continue to reward them. I can't say anything here, any numbers that are going to shock anybody any longer because I mean at this point in time Kenyans know this situation. But I always think about that kid's who's sitting somewhere, and the only way he's going to be able to get us to go to school and to get a chance in life is that someone behaves appropriately with this money. And people are behaving like this with people's money. And it makes me so angry because that's me. That's me. I sit here in America and I look at myself and I feel like I've been able to overcome a lot. The difference between me and a lot of those kids in Kenya is the opportunity that I got. And I want these kids to have that opportunity. When you're thinking about, you're talking about maybe running for office, you're doing it not because you want to be called Mheshimiwa, because you feel like that kid somewhere needs someone to fight for them.
Yes.
When we do this work that we do, and I appreciate you guys, your help with that. I always tell myself, if we can bring light to what's happening, and we can save, um, you know, that constituency, Alado, if we can save that constituency 50 million or 100 million in a year, there's hope that that money might end up helping a kid somewhere. That's why I
Yes.
do this, and I know that that's why you guys do this. But
Yes.
at some point, we have to move. We have to make some progress. We have to go further than just hoping that, because at this point in time, the system is so broken in terms of accountability. Parliament is not holding this accountable. The EACC is not helping, right? That even if the EACC was interested in serving Kenyans, there's just so much crime. And
Yes.
I'm the biggest critic of the EACC. But the amount of problem that we create for ourselves when we elect thieves and clowns and people who have no business being anywhere near public office, it is not something that we can overcome by setting up the EACC and giving it a budget of 4.5 billion.
Yes.
This money that we're talking about, the corruption and the money that we lose is so much that you go and you set up a little department, you call it the EACC, has a budget of 4.5 billion, and then it's corrupted. But even if it was staffed by the best people, the most hardworking people, they don't have enough resources. And so we as citizens, we need to be more angry. We need to demand better of ourselves, right? We need
Yes.
to demand better of ourselves so that we don't elect people that are thieves. And so even if I made you the CEO of the ESCC tomorrow, where do you start? Where do you start? What county do you start? I gave you a list and I told you that here I have a list of counties that CDFs that if I just focus on the ones that lost at least 30 million, there are so many, right? Where do you go? Do you go to Awendo where they lost 125 million? Do you go to Embakasi where 91 million is missing? Do you go to South Imenti where 83? The point is that we've created a mess where we've elected
Yes.
thieves all across the country. There is no men or women hours that are going to be able to overcome this nightmare that we've created for ourselves. So the best way to fix this is to start by being accountable ourselves and saying, I am not going to elect thieves anymore. I am not going to elect someone because of a party. I'm going to make sure that the person that I'm electing someone is like giving someone a job. Like if you don't want me to run your kiosk,
Yeah.
because you know that you're not gonna trust me when it comes to the math, then don't hire me as an MP. You know,
Yes.
there's no difference here. So we need to own the mistakes that we've done and just try to be better decision makers in terms of who we put into office. If we can just do that, our kids will have an opportunity to have at least a better situation than we have it today.
I agree with you. I
Yeah.
agree with you. And I feel like this is an important question. Before we go to your closing remarks, I want each one of you to give me an answer for this because I feel like it's one of the things that has caused misunderstanding with the public in regards to CDF. And I think if we have some clarity to it, then maybe the way forward might be a bit better. To both of you, and I will start with this. What is the biggest myth Kenyans believe about CDF that prevents us from seeing the truth about CDF?
I think the biggest myth, and that needs to be debunked, is that it's money that is at the discretion of the member of parliament to spend for those who support the member of parliament. So you find that people are comfortable really saying that because I didn't vote for this member of parliament, I probably don't deserve a bursary, or I cannot ask because I did not support. And then, of course, they have to go beg. They have to the member of parliament. I think it's important for our people to know that this is their taxes, this is their money allocated for them, regardless of whether they voted for this member of parliament, whether they are registered as voters. They need to know that as long as they're citizens, they need to really hold the member of parliament accountable.
Understood. I like what you're saying, that just by the virtue that you're a resident of that constituency, hiyo pesa ni haki yako. Just by the virtue that you're a Kenyan and you contribute taxes and you eventually land in a constituency, ni haki yako na si favor ambayo unafanyiwa. So itisha na kifua. Bonnie, what do you think about the question?
Yeah, so I think what I will say is what I think. I don't know if I'll call it a myth, but the thing that I think Kenyans don't often see when you're thinking about these things is they don't see the scale of the resources that are available to begin with. So if I walk, if you and I run into, if you run into me and you are, imagine you are just a villager somewhere, right? And I just run into you and you ask me, to buy you lunch, and I give you 500, right? If you expected nothing from me, you might think 500 is that, like you'd be so excited. This guy is so nice. But if you don't know how much I have in my pocket, like if you knew that I was working 5 million, you might think, hii jamaa alikuwa na 5 million amenipatia 500 peke yake. So when I'm talking to people oftentimes, like I was giving you that lady in my county that I was talking to who told me that she gets about 3,000. She has no idea about the scale of the resources that are available. She does not know, right? She does not know that the CDF, where she lives, is getting 200 million. She does not know that.
Yes.
When Kenyans know that, wow, there was 200 million, then they start asking, say, okay, so then where did the money go? It's when you start asking this. If I go to a window today and just find the average citizen, if someone gave a 3,000, they're gonna think that MP is so good because they've been getting this 300, right? So you need to have a fuller picture of the scope of things, of the size and the amount of resources that are there. When people know that, they are going to be better judges of how these people are behaving with their money. That's a picture that oftentimes people don't have. Don't just focus on what he gave you. Ask yourself how much money was available and how did he do? What did he do with the rest of it, right?
Yes.
So don't just say ati upata 3,000. Maybe you could have, maybe you could have had everything to take your kid to a school where instead of a lady is selling uji and she's having to save 28,000 to take kids to a primary school. I mean, we should be ashamed of ourselves.
Yes.
100 at the lady's cooking uji. 100 is the price. How many cups do you think she has to sell to save 28,000? And that 28,000, there's an MP that's going somewhere and spending that on lunch, somewhere because he's in office, right? It's that scale, that entire context is something that's missing, and I've been trying to talk to Kenyans about that. So we need to
I
focus on
agree.
that.
That's a very important area, and I like that you've brought up, because if I brought myself to the panel, that is the
Yeah,
same thing that I will say. Someone steals from you 9 billion to buy
right.
Talanta Stadium land,
Yep.
and then they come give you 2,000, and you get excited. You're like, oh, this person gave us 2,000. Someone steals from you. Awendo got 186 million
Yeah,
during this financial year. And then
yeah,
someone comes to you and gives you 2,000, and you get excited and you say, oh, at least amenipea hii. If we understand truthfully, if they decided to use that money as intended,
yeah.
you would have gotten
Guys,
so much more. So much more.
the
And
government right now,
mm,
the government right now is running around selling Nyota. This Nyota program is a loan from the World Bank
Yes.
for 29 billion. The government is borrowing more money. Again, the country we just found out the country in the last 6 months, since I think June or July of this year to the end of the year, 95% of every single shilling that was spent that was raised in the country went to debt service. 95. Okay, so that's one set of that's one data point. This Nyota program is another loan that we've taken for 29 billion, and we are running around the country telling Kenyans to come and get 16,000 or something like that to go start a business. 29 billion. Even if it wasn't a loan, assume it wasn't a loan. Assume the government is using savings to do that, which is not. But 29 billion. You and I can sit here, and if you have 5 minutes, I will show you 100 billion wasted, right? So we do things. The government goes out and sells this program like 29 billion. That is nothing relative to what
Right.
we are wasting and stealing from people. You know, that's
And,
that. I cannot describe anything that makes me more angry than that.
and
You know?
just to finalize on the issue,
Yeah.
ghost schools, ghost workers, are you truthfully going to tell me what mechanism can we discern and say E 29 billion
Right.
ilipeana watu? The purpose is wrong to begin with, but how are we going to track it and say 29 billion ilipeanwa hawa watu? For me, so far, if you ask me, I have asked my family members, I'm like, nani amepata Nyota Fund? Nani? Please lift up your hand. Would you ask from the ward who has received Nyota Fund? I personally do not know, and I have gone out of my way to ask people. That is another area that they will tell us they've spent money on, but we will not be able to track who has been spent money. I want us to finalize. Justice, I want to ask a question as you finalize with your closing statement. Aya, Justice, I'm coming to you. Aya, introduce aje. Aya, gents, as usual, I am happy to have you with me through this session. Your contribution, to say the least, is very impactful. The time you take to research on these matters, the time you take to research on your opinion on the issues, and just how you dedicate to be part of this conversation. You dedicate yourself to be part of this conversation. I truly, truly appreciate. What comes out clearly is the intention of the CDF was one thing. Whatever is actually being achieved is a totally different thing. And we ought to come to the table and ask, what is the way forward? And this is what I'm going to ask each one of you. For justice, if you're building CDF from scratch today, what would you keep? What would you remove? And what would you redesign completely?
Wow. That's a good question. Really, really good question that not only demands for an answer, but calls for the country to be engaged. But it has to be engaged without the influence of the politicians who actually keep telling us that CDF is the best managed fund. So the challenge we have in our country is that we go by the narratives, but not by the numbers. And what has happened with this program is to actually bring out the numbers to say that what you're hearing is not true. It's not true. And if you have seen anything, then it will remind me of the story, an analogy that was given by the Honorable Mother Karua at one point. This might make more sense to a lawyer, actually. Honorable Karua says that what is happening with these politicians is like a thief comes to your home, steals your chicken, goes and slaughters it. And then, after slaughtering the chicken, cooks it, brings you chicken feet. You thank him for actually giving you something. So the attitude of the Kenyan people is that at least this one gives us something. They steal everything, then they come back with handouts. They say that at least they have given us something. So the number one thing that I agree with the Honorable Kio Mtata is that separate money from politicians. Period. Separate money and
Yes.
politicians. It was never meant to be. It should never be the case. So let's begin with that. Let's put it in the hands of the people that can manage these funds and politicians aside. That would be the first thing I would do. The second thing is to ensure that even when the funds are earmarked, whether it's for the ward, for projects and all that, we don't have to transfer the money. I keep singing this. I would not let that the money was transferred to this account where our constituencies, our counties have like 30, 40 accounts that the money is being sent to. And we wonder, like, why do you have bank accounts? I don't know how many there are. It has to be a situation where we have earmarked this, but once the project is done, verified, the money comes from the same source. And one of the other things that I will probably do as I finish is to ensure that we increase, and I'm very grateful that you are big on the public participation. We have to get to the point of really actualizing what this public participation means. Not just from the beginning of the projects, but even to the payments. And if we have to do, and this is a challenge, especially to the young people, college students, please do us a favor. Let's start county newspapers. Let's start county places to publish these things. Where if a project has been finished, we need to have even the local radio station said a certain project has been finished and it's ready for payment. So let's publish the finished projects before payment is made so that people can hold them accountable. But I'm very confident that with this kind of program and the great, and the wonderful people that we have in our country, we are going to make a difference.
Here's the task that I'm giving to you because we are doers and not just talkers. You're vying in Bogichori. Yani mpaka nimeshika hiyo jina. Yes. Identify people who can be disciples that would help us to monitor the projects that are being undertaken in the constituency. I think that is the least each one of us can do. If we start it as a trend and we set it, then it's easier for us to ask more people to join whatever initiative it is that we are starting. So please identify people that we can work with on county public participation and then on constituency.
Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. Things that I've done using a friend of mine called Abud has put together 20 students from a polytechnic that are going to start auditing my ward starting the beginning of February. So what I'm telling you is that we are starting to do this. Even it's not just going to be just campaigning to win, but if nothing ever happens in Asambu, there will be good governance afterward. Whoever comes in, as we move forward, there will be something that they're going to build on to make sure that our wards and our counties are led in the right way. So I'll take that task. I'll report back.
And we have to follow up on that. We'll do that. We'll do that for Kiambu as well. We'll do that for Dagoretti North and wherever else we can reach our hands at. Kuzunguya wenyewe. Bonnie, in closing remarks, as you give us your closing remarks, I would like for you to answer this question. If we were to measure development by outcomes instead of allocations, what 3 metrics should Kenya adopt for CDF?
That's a very interesting question because remember I spent a lot of time talking to you, telling you that the way that we do things means that there's no way for us to even evaluate the effectiveness of anything because let's take the CDF money and let's just take last year for example. If we spent 60 billion at the CDF level, if you ask me to give you an answer, how effective was that? There is no way for me to tell you that it was successful because I need to know who got the money. I need to know what the standard was. I need to know what was the intended beneficiary of this amount. so that I can say, okay, so we wanted to make sure that it goes to people that are needy, people that are, whatever targeted objective we had, I need to know that. But there's nothing like that, right? And so I cannot tell you that this money went to the right people because, we operate like gangsters. So there is no, when you do things the way we are doing it in this country, there is no way for anybody to tell you whether we are successful. If you are asking me, how will I evaluate a system that says that its job is to help develop a country? I'm gonna look at the increase in the standard of living. I'm gonna look at things like crime rates because those ones don't lie to you. If you go somewhere and you see a lot of crime, it tells you a lot about opportunities that are available there. So I will focus on things like, um, you know, if you don't want to do crime and you want to be a good citizen, do you have the opportunities to do that? That's what I will look at, things like that. And then, of course, some things, they're not easy to, you can't hide. If you go somewhere and you take a look at a school, you're going to be able to see whether or not money is invested. I tell people all the time when I go and I drop off my son here in Texas in a school, I have never looked up what is happening with my money in Texas. I have never cared because I know that the money is, when I drop him at school, I am not questioning what they do with my money because I can see it. I don't need to be told by anybody. So when money is being spent the right way, you'll be able to know that, right? Because you go to a school and you can see that it's a good school, it has enough facilities. If you're driving on a nice road, if you go and turn on your water and then water comes out, you know the money is going where it needs to go. So oftentimes, the real measure of what's happening in a community, you don't need to come there with a sophisticated model of estimation, right? You can tell. But with the way we're doing things in this country, we don't have, nobody can tell you whether we're effective as a country in dealing with any of the serious needs that we have because, again, when you don't know where the money went. So even if I told you, let's take the 60 billion, how much of that actually went to the intended purpose? Because there's a lot of corruption. We just spoke about all the millions and millions that are missing in these CDFs. What do you do with that in a model? If you're trying to estimate the effect, what do you do with that? You can't, right? And things are that way because we are not a serious country. We need to be serious. I think the last thing I would tell Kenyans is that, we spend a lot of time talking about the frustration that we have because our politicians are letting us down. This is 1% or 2% of the Kenyan population. We are not hostages. We talk about people that have taken over the country, 1%, 2%. They've decided to pay themselves 100 times what you and I make, 150 times you and I make. They've decided to reward themselves 200 million in CDF allocations going to them. Kenyans don't want that, but they've decided that's what they're gonna do. And we keep talking, like we are hostages. We need to man the hell up and go and demand to have our country back, right? We are not going to do this anymore, right? We don't want our money sent to politicians so they can steal it from us. If we want to serve Kenyans, we need to have a more organized way of doing things, where you have a standard, where you have, if you're interested in finding out how have we done when it comes to bursaries over the last 5 years, we can say this is how much money we spent because we know that we actually spend this amount of money. We know who the beneficiaries are. Where are those people? We can interview them and say, okay, we saved this kid from dropping out of school. None of us can say that about what's happening in the country, right? So we love complain a lot, which is fine, but we need to do much better than that, which is saying we need to demand our country back, and you demand it by registering to vote, and then interrogate people that are coming to tell you that they want your vote, and vote for the right people. If we just do that, we'll be able to get our country back. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Justice. Thank you, Bonnie. In closing, I will pick up from where Bonnie has left and stick with me. Don't be quick to wonder what it is that I am saying. In law, there is this sort of an offense called obscenity, and they were trying to define what obscenity is. And one of the judges said, I will just know it. I will know it when I see it. And I want to bring that close home. You do not need a politician to tell you I am good. I have used the money well. I have done this and that for you. I have done this project. I have employed 400,000 people. I have built this many houses. You will see it. You will feel it. You do not need a politician to tell you people have more money. The inflation is not as high. The GDP per capita is good. Those numbers do not matter. You as a Kenyan, you will feel it. You will go buy avocado and realize I used to buy avocado for 10 bob. Now I am buying avocado for 70 bob. You will feel it. You will buy sugar and you will know I used to buy sugar for 100 bob in 2022. Now I am buying sugar for 170. You will feel it. Do not be swayed by the PR that you see outside here in terms of politicians. What they are pushing for is for themselves. They have had a taste of this money starting from an MP through NGCDF, and they would want more, and they will tell you whatever it is that you need to hear so that they can get what they want. Cutting ribbons, word of mouth, don't buy it until you feel it. That is one area. Second thing, and this is a request to the NGCDF board. Two things: public participation. We would like for the public to take on the initiative to participate in NGCDF projects. And that can be easy if we get the support of the board as well. You are the ultimate managers of the project, and we would like for you to create an initiative where the public is actually involved in the selection of the project and also in the approvals of the project. And that is the only way we will ensure that whatever it is that the people need is what they get, and whatever it is that is promised to the people is what they finally get. Transparency is also something that we are asking from you. Money is lost through bursary. It does not make sense. It's either students are there or they are not there. There ought to be a clear list that indicates, I know at one point we said we do not want to parade people's poverty. But then for the sake of transparency, it's important to know who received money. So anytime the government says, oh, we are disbursing Nyota Fund, we are disbursing Hustler Fund, publish the list of the people who received that amount. We are giving out bursary because it's not only the constituencies that are stealing bursaries, it's also the county government. Capitation money is being stolen by the national government. So ultimately, the beneficiaries of this amount that are located in the budget are politicians and not the people, not Wananchi. Publish transparently who received what amount, which school are they in, which project is being constructed in this area, what pictures did they take of the completed project. We want transparency so that we can be part of the accountability process, so that whenever the institution that is responsible for that fails, then we can speak it out loud. So finally, and to the people, now this is to the public, Again, just to reiterate what Bonnie and Justice has said. Kuwa mfuasi. Go out there, be part of knowing who is your MP, knowing who is your MCA. We focus on the president, we forget. The road begins from the top, but there is the road at the bottom as well. Each year, you are allocated between 161 million to 200 million, depending with your constituency. And please note, that amount will never be reduced. It's supposed to either remain the same or be increased, meaning chances are next year your constituency would earn higher. Look around your constituency. Do you see that amount reflected anywhere? If you do not see that amount reflected anywhere, of course your MP failed you, but you also failed yourself. Here is how you failed yourself. One, you voted for that person. Let's assume you did not know he's a bad person. 2027, you get a chance to do it better. But in terms of accountability, between now and 2027, there is a lot more that you can do. Watch what he's doing, be part of the public participation, follow up, check, ask question, ask for a sitting with your MCA, ask for a sitting with your MP. That is the only way ultimately change can start. It starts small, and that is from your ward, your constituency, before we can get to the national government. So work with us, work by yourself, but at all times, ensure you're part of accountability, and ultimately usidanganywe na mtu ambaye anakupea 2,000 na kumbe ameiba bilioni 8. It is not worth it. It's not worth it. It's short-sighted. It's short-term. Let you not be lied by empowerment. It's short-term. It's short-sighted. Please, let's be better citizens even as we ask for better leaders. Thank you again for sticking with us. Sorry for it being so lengthy, but each of the points that we mentioned was important, and we were happy you've stuck with us through the end. Asante sana. And Bonnie and Justice, asante
God bless you
sana.
too.
And barikiweni. That's
Thank
the
you so much.